Welcome back, everyone, to episode 9 of Time in the Round. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Hayden Dale. Hayden, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm
You're
good,
always
Brendan.
expecting, right?
2 weeks in a
Yeah,
row. You can't leave me hanging 2 weeks in a row.
I told you it's too creatively demanding, and I don't know enough mean things about you.
Fair. I'm sure we can uncover some things over the week, but yeah.
Yeah.
How's things, Brendan? How's your week been?
That's pretty good. So I'm actually recording this on Thursday. We usually record on Friday
Yeah.
because I am driving up to Kansas tomorrow. So Kansas is pretty far from me. It's like 5 hours. So I am just going to make a 2-night kind of thing out of it. So I'll be up there Friday night, Saturday night, and then probably leave around Sunday afternoon. I don't know. I don't know what's really in Kansas. It's kind of the Great Plains, so we'll see. We were gonna bring my dog. We decided not to, but we'll see if we can find something interesting out there. I literally I don't know what to expect. We're kind of just doing 2 days because I don't want to do 10 hours of driving in a day. That'd be I don't know, it's borderline impossible, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. I've
After
done it before. I wouldn't
10,
recommend
12-hour
it.
event. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
I wouldn't. I went to a skirmish in season 2. The only skirmish I played, I drove. I think it was like 4 hours there, like after work. Played the skirmish, then drove back. 3 hours maybe.
Like,
I wouldn't recommend. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But I was the only skirmish I was going to get to play, so but I wouldn't recommend it.
Did you win?
I did not.
Oh, dang.
But anyway, Brendan, we can digress. Wanted to talk about last weekend for you, though. Actually, Brendan, you went to another Road to Nationals, had a pretty good weekend. We talked about it on the pod that you managed to win the event playing chain. But actually, something we didn't talk about that I thought was pretty cool was that you actually went X2 into top 8. So you only just by the skin of your teeth made the top 8. I thought it'd be maybe cool to talk about actually your losses. We always reflect on sort of the glory of the 9-0 run the week prior or 2 weeks prior, but you took 2 losses into top 8, and I believe you actually had a pseudo rematch, or you played against basically the same deck list in the finals as well as one of your Swiss losses. So could you maybe talk to us about your Swiss losses and how you kind of adjusted to those losses in Swiss before you head into top 8? Because I think a couple of really cool players that you played as well.
Yep. So it wasn't just by my skinny. I didn't just squeak in. I actually got in at number 8, and I think I actually had a pretty low percent chance to get in at number 8 as well. I think my opponents just did really well in the tournament, which squeaked me in. I definitely wasn't packing up my bag and ready to leave as they were calling out top 8. So I had no plan to play. I thought there was no way. I was for sure 9th or 10th, but somehow I squeaked in. So yeah, Swiss. So I don't know. I think that we're pretty much the same way in how this goes down. But in Swiss, I'm definitely like way more nervous than I am in top 8. In top 8, I'm cool as a cucumber. I don't care. And like, I don't know, everything's really clear and I feel very, very in control. Where in Swiss, I'm like, I don't know why. Like my heart rate's up and I just feel a bit more pressure. And you can take 2 losses rather than single limb, which is Swiss. So it's weird. But yeah, I started off well. I had round 1 chain mirror, which was nice. So we got the W, and then it was Bolton, and then round 3. So round 3, I did lose, and I lost to Bravo as well. The player was Zach Bunn. He's the guy from Team Covenant. So it was an interesting match. We were at table 1, and yeah, it didn't fatigue me, right? It was a gentleman's game of flesh and blood. So it's kind of back and forth, and it wasn't that I wasn't prepared for it. I just took a lot of damage from like some early cards that got banished that weren't super ideal. Like I got some early like howls and rips and banishes at the same time, which was pretty painful in terms of taking damage. And then I did get spinaled. I think it was either twice or it was 3 times. And the final spinal was what got me. So I did take a spinal at 10, take 9, go down to 1, and then he was able to keep 2 cards plus card in arsenal, and it was just a dominated blue disable. But yeah, it was an interesting game. There were some things I think I would have done differently in retrospect. Like there's definitely an economy you can do with the armor so that you can pretty much dodge every single spinal, which didn't do effectively. I played my armor well until the 3rd spinal, where I was like, he's just kind of got to have the 3rd spinal. And if he does, I kind of lose here. If he doesn't, I win. And we had seen 3 crippling crushes, and this was going to be the 3rd spinal. So like, it's relatively unlikely. We haven't got through so much of the deck. I'm just not going to play around the spinal because I had also seen a snag as well, which had sat in arsenal. So yeah, and then ultimately I was spinaled, went down to 1. Like I said, I lost, but it was, I don't know, it was fine. I didn't feel bad about it at all. I know a lot of people are like, well, I consider round 3 a pretty early loss Like it's very bad to lose round 3, not great. But I felt confident. I just thought that I could go undefeated throughout Swiss and just get in the top 8 anyway. Um, I felt confident about the deck and confident about the field. So I was okay taking that loss. Obviously not ideal. Much rather take it in round 4, especially if we're looking at a 52 player event. So like, especially when you talk about like 52 player, if you're going to lose, you definitely want to lose last round. And then if you're going to lose 2 rounds, you definitely want to be like round 4, round 5. Round 3 is like, oof, how did you get in on breakers? So
or round 6. You really need to be round 6 because of the way the breakers
yeah.
go.
So no, I'm assuming you take the only other one you take is in round 6, right?
Yeah.
So you take round 6, and then after that, it's got to be 5-4, and then 3 is like, I mean, I feel like you really shouldn't even get in at that. But after that, I went into, what was my round 4? My round 4 is Dorinthia, which Chain does really well against like some of the not current, but older Dorinthia builds. Chain does extremely well with especially because the Husk. After that, I had a Prism match in round 5, and that was the hardest match I've had all season. Because there's like a weird end game sequence that you have to play if you run out of certain cards like Riftbind or something of this nature. It's a bit complicated, and yeah, I had to run that end game scenario, which I don't like doing, and it's especially against Prism. It basically, you have to bank on them drawing a block 2 or block 0 to actually close out the game. Prism's the only class in the game that can avoid that end game lock, and you take a bunch of damage while you do it. And then I got into round 6. So round 6, there was 2 brothers on some sort of like very, very, very fatigued Prism control. I hadn't lost to controller fatigue in pretty much months, right? Like I almost never lose to it. But since I had played a pretty aggressive list in the Prism before, or kind of mid range, I definitely hedged my sideboard quite a bit, and left out what would have ended up being key cards. I don't think they were essentially key cards in the matchup. But to put it in perspective, I was at Shackle 6 and he was at 38. So that's pretty hard. And then the way he and his brother were playing Arclight Sentinel was definitely the most optimal way to play it, which even the players in my testing group and things like that, we weren't really playing Arclight like that. So it was really frustrating. And I actually got really blown out by 2 Arclights. We'll talk about it later, but I was able to adjust in the finals because I played the same deck in the finals, not the same guy. And dodge that kind of Arclight blow. But yeah, that really got me. And then obviously the super high health, when Ursa did come down, it was just kill with like Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer also being probably like one of the more ideal clears that you can have. So yeah, I lost Ursa immediately, and like I remember it's funny because the end of this game, he was at 26 and I had everything banished. And I remember we had 15 minutes left in the round, and there was about 15 play lines. Like it was a lot. And I was sitting there, and then he was like, I could see him getting around. I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to time us out. And it took me a solid, 7 or so minutes to find the actual most damaged line, where he ended up on 4, and then I lost the game. It was a good game. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So accommodation from your opponent there.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely the last turn of the game, right? This is the thing. It's like at Road to Nats, like this kind of stuff is decently okay because, like, I mean, it is borderline rude to call like a slow play on the like literal final turn of the game. No cards in my deck. No way I could progress the game any further after this turn, and we have 15 minutes. If you call slow play after a minute, I mean, that's definitely disrespectful. But I understand the gamesmanship, But at a Road to Nats, like it's very unlikely, and also a player that is near me locally. It was complex. So anyway, yeah, I was definitely kind of packing up my stuff, ready to go. X2 lost around 6, lost around 3, and somehow I got in the top 8. And yeah, so in top 8, obviously I faced the number 1 seed, 6-0 Aggro Katsu list, and it was actually Zach. So the guy lost in the third round. It was his brother Tim. So Aggro Katsu, not a fantastic matchup for me. Not a fantastic match for Aggro Katsu either. So a bit of a flipper on that one. But yeah, definitely it went in my favor. I made some efficient blocks. He did draw a quad blue hand, but he drew the quad blue hand on my Shadow Puppetry Command and Conquer turn, so I think it was kind of a block out turn anyway. But definitely swung tempo in my favor, and I was able to clean that one up. Round 2, I actually had no information on my round 2 opponent. I didn't even know what hero he was playing, so it was Dash. And I definitely hedged my sideboard quite a bit. I played Aether Ironweave, and yeah, I won that one pretty handily. Kind of went from starting out a bit aggressive to try to turtle up after I was at a certain level of health. Which, if you play Aether Ironweave over the husk, which I'm not saying you should do, but if you do and you get into that scenario, it's drastically better, right? Because I know I'm gonna kill him, and I don't really have to worry too much about my life total. But in the final, so the last round of Swiss, it wasn't the same guy, but it was his brother. These guys had actually played. They were playing the same Prism deck. They played in the semis, and they actually played to a non-decision. So no cards in deck, no way to kill each other. One's on 22 life, one's on 8 life. So it's a weird scenario, but the person with the higher life wins. So I actually played the other brother, and I knew what the deck did. I knew how they were planning to play the Arclight and how to avoid it, and it was pretty funny. We went the entire game. I was on shackle like 9 or something, or 10 or something like that. And I hadn't seen a single Arclight. I hadn't seen any snags, nothing like this. It's like, oh, he's not playing Arclight. Reasonable card to cut, right? A bunch of yellows in the deck, reasonable card to cut. And then I committed in, like starting with my 2 howls, and he Arclighted it. And there's actually a picture, someone took a picture of my face. My eyes are so big. I was so surprised. Like, I literally, big D. I was like, ooh. Yeah, I was able to kind of close that one out, but it's funny because after the game, he was like, oh my god, where are my Arclights? He flips the next 2 cards off his deck, and they're double Arclight right next to each other. Yeah, and I was able to kind of take it home, which was nice. Maybe a bit of a longer story than you were expecting.
Yeah, no, but that's okay. It's good to hear. It's good to hear. Like, I think interesting to hear your event, but what's just in terms of like mindset? And so you're at like X2, right? You think you're missing top 8. Like, how do you then get yourself prepared back to go into top 8 to make that run? Like, it's if you're already mentally checking out, you're packing up, you're ready to go home. How do you?
I don't know why, but like I said at the very beginning, like, it's so easy for me to play like top 8 or like what would be considered higher pressure scenarios, or it's like there's a different way of looking at it. It's like where I had mentally kind of accepted a loss on the day, and then I just got like this kind of freebie, I got like another chance. So I didn't expect it. But every single time I play top 8 or play like very high pressure scenarios, I don't really feel any nerves. Like, I don't care. Like, I just kind of know that, I've practiced, I like my deck, and I have strategies to win. And it's weird because I don't feel like that during Swiss. During Swiss, I'm like, God, dude, okay, if I just don't lose between this round and this round, I'm going to be locked. And then who cares, right? And I'm like, I lose round 3. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. So can't lose round 4, can't lose round 5, can't lose round 6. I'm probably still out. So like, whatever. But yeah, it's a weird thing. Like, my mindset actually gets way better as the stakes kind of raise and you go later into the day, which is probably different from most people, I'd assume.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I always think that like taking it round by round is one of the most important things you can do. Like, not like playing what's in front of you, right? I think if you're doing that, then you lose the last round. It like is what it is, right? And then if you sneak into top 8, okay, I'm in top 8 now.
Yeah.
Now I play my quarterfinal. That's all I'm playing. I'm not playing anything else. It's actually, I think I was listening to the latest Attack Action podcast, and they were talking about this because Taylor had a NATO run in his road to nationals, and he kind of was doing the same thing. They just play round to round. I think that's it goes back to that kind of process over results, right? Like, you play round to round, your matchup, you sit down, you've got your notes ready, you sideboard in, you're not putting pressure on yourself, you're not mentally draining yourself, you just play the match like it's a game of testing, right? So if you can do that, you're in a good spot. So
that's definitely the theory that I have. Like, if I talk about like mental, like game and mental theory, that's the way I'm thinking. But the best way I can call back to this is with the first road to nationals when I went 9-0. I remember I was 6-0 in Swiss, and like, you go into your quarters, and like there's definitely a little creep that's like, oh, it would really blow to go 6-0 in Swiss and lose in the quarters. And I was just like, okay, I need to put that in some deep dark place and just shove it down, because like that, because you definitely like that's gonna come. It's like, damn, it would really suck to lose this one.
Yeah, but you just don't lose it. You just stay positive, right? Keep the mindset, and it's round at a time. Know the matchups. Do you find it so that's interesting? So you didn't know anything about your semifinals opponent. Do you find that then tougher from a mental standpoint going into that game, being like, I don't actually know what my opponent's going to do? Does that exhaust some of your mental energy? I guess thinking about sideboard plans that you don't already have written down, thinking about how you're going to play the matchup because you don't necessarily 100% just know your game plan going in.
So this is like borderline a bit controversial, but like, I'm just gonna tell you how it went down, because I don't want to like be disrespectful, but I was like, my mind was kind of like, I don't know anything about my opponent. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he's playing. I don't know anything. probably means it's easy, right? Because like if it was like I don't know, it was just like one thing in my head. It was like, yeah, it's probably easier, right? Because nobody's complained about it, nobody's come up to me about it, nobody's told me about his record, nobody's told me about it. And like I don't know, I don't really go with like a posse or anything. I kind of go usually mostly by myself, but
Solo
that
man.
was going through my mind. It's like I hadn't heard anything about it. Um, it's probably nothing crazy. Like it's probably just normal. So yeah, I wasn't too worried at all.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, good run. Let's see if you can do it again this weekend. You're up to Kansas, obviously, and up. Is Kansas up? I don't even. Of course it is. Yeah, it's definitely up.
I live in
You're in
Texas, so
Texas. Yeah. See, even I know my US geography. So I did a BuzzFeed quiz the other day, and I named 28 states in the US on the map location. So there you go. So
you look like the type of guy that takes BuzzFeed quizzes on social media.
how good, how good. All right. All right, well, enough about BuzzFeed quizzes and Kansas. We'll save that for next weekend. Uh, Brendan, we did the mailbag episode this week, and I just wanted to say, thanks to all of our listeners and viewers who dropped a question on the last pod. We had, I think, including the emails, actually, we had 100 questions or just under 100 questions. So we had a lot of questions for the mailbag. Episode just dropped, at this point 2 days ago. We didn't get through all the questions because there was a ton of them. We've been there for 3-4 hours if we tried that. But I also didn't want to let these questions go to waste. There's some really awesome questions there. So you know what, Brendan? I thought what we did in the mailbag is we actually broke it down into some sections based on the types of questions people asked. And we had some really great questions on like competitive play that we didn't get through all of them. So I thought, you know what, let's do some of them on time in the round. I think they're awesome discussion points and really relevant to, not just the competitive scene now, but what's going to happen with the competitive future of Flesh and Blood. So if you're ready, Brendan, I'm going to fire some of these our way.
Go for it.
I was going to say your way, but it's our way. All right. So the first question is, what kind of player do you think will win the World Champs next year? For example, what region might they be from? And do you think a relatively unknown player could become World Champ? And it's from Byron. Thanks, Byron.
Depends what you mean by unknown. So, do I think that somebody will win world championships that I don't know who they are, or like, I don't know, they haven't won like many previous events? Probably not. Like the Flesh and Blood is decently low variance. It's become higher variance in Monarch. Fun. But yeah, I mean the same players kind of tend to win, and I don't expect someone who's unknown to win it. That being said, I don't think that someone is already locked to win it, right? So like the players that are perceived as the top, or maybe even are the top right now, I wouldn't really cast my die for the world champion quite yet. What about you, Hayden?
Yeah, I think it's. I think if they're talking about like relatively unknown, I think relatively unknown could be. You could put a lot of players into relatively unknown because there's some really good players out there who I think people don't know about. They might have heard of the name, but they don't actually know. They haven't won. I don't know, they haven't won a calling. They haven't won national champs. I guess I'm just describing Matt Rogers, I guess, but or the dev team. But or even like they're not a content creator, whatever it is. Like there's people out there who are really good who are still coming through. But also, World Champs isn't for a while, right? And there's a lot of players coming from other games, like Magic, like Hearthstone, like whatever else. Who have been maybe pro players or semi-pro players in that game, or grinders, who I think are going to pick this game up reasonably quickly because there's just it's easier to pick it up now, I think, than it was, say, 8, 9, 10 months ago when it was a lot less, I guess, info out about the game.
When the game was harder. I literally thought you were going down that
no,
like,
no,
when the game required skill, Magic players would have really had a hard time. But now it's right up their alley. I'm kidding.
Classic Brendan there. No, I wasn't saying that at all. I was just in general saying that those are sort of players that you could definitely see coming in and playing the game and probably doing reasonably well. So it could be one of them. It could be a player who's been playing the game the whole time, but maybe they're in a country that hasn't had the exposure. Maybe we'll see a European player come through and take it. Maybe a player from Asia. So honestly, it could be a number of people, I think, and just because there's some perceived top players right now doesn't mean that they're even going to have a good run at a world champs. So yeah, in terms of I was actually just going back to the second part of the question, which is what region might they come from? Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I would think if I had to put like money on it, right now. If someone said you get to put some money on a region, I would maybe put my money on Europe. I don't know. Just have this feeling. I wouldn't put my money on. Sorry, New Zealand players. I wouldn't put my money on New Zealand because there's a smaller player base, and even though they have the experience, I think by the time we get to Worlds next year, the player base in other parts of the world is going to be a lot bigger. And the competitive scene with the callings coming through the US and the callings coming to Europe end of this year, next year, just a lot easier for the Europeans and the North Americans to travel coming up in the next 12 months than it is for New Zealanders, Australians, and even maybe people in parts of Asia, just due to restrictions and the current state and the fact that it's really difficult to travel. So that's where I would put my money, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean, so it's pretty funny because those questions I definitely avoid.
No, I don't.
No, I know, but I'll tell you why. Because when it comes to Flesh and Blood, for like American players, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of run the ringer like somewhat the most, right? Like I went to one of the first callings, I placed well, I traveled to New Zealand, I competed in New Zealand, I played against New Zealand players, so I have like an idea of like what it's like, and but still, I feel like it's a little disrespectful for me to kind of like not to talk about like regions or like it's North America or it's something like this because I still do compete in what I would even consider and what people in New Zealand definitely consider to be a softer region. I think my region is softer. I'm sorry to everybody in North America. We'll get there. I think we'll get there,
100%.
but it's easier. It's definitely easier. And that's true for a lot of places in the world. So for me, like I think this came up on the podcast as well with the questions. It was like something about regions and players. Um, and I feel like I gotta keep paying my dues. So like it's not until world champion that I'll be like, yeah, it's definitely this region, it's definitely that region. I'm still an American coming into your game, and I don't know. I like to keep it
Brendan's
as
paying
humble
his
as
dues.
possible.
All right.
Yeah, I know. Like paying my dues.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
look, all the regions that are up and coming will get there, right? Like, you've got whole states right now in the US who have only picked up the game in the last like 2-3 months. So there's bunches of players there. We've seen some really like stronger contenders come through, and Road to Nationals already running halfway. So yeah, interesting.
for sure.
All right, we've got Brendan back. Just a little bit of internet issues there. Second question, Brendan, comes from League of Blev. Do you think the calling Vegas will bring about a new era of FAB? How do you think the influx of other TCG pros, former players, will affect the FAB community? There you go. This kind of leads on from the previous question, and a great question from Blev there.
Yeah, so do I think it'll be a new era of FAB? Absolutely. I think this will be like a historical moment almost. Essentially, the first Grand Prix, and it kind of sets the precedent for what will come, especially in 2022. And just what our competitive play will look like. Because like we've played competitively, right, with little quotes, but this is the first. If you're in America, right, this is the first over 200 people massive event. Like what's crazy is like if you think about it, there's people going to Vegas. And this happened with Magic GPs as well. People going to Vegas and like literally not for the tournament, like going for the experience, the side events. Though, I mean,
Which
it's
is
not
awesome.
really there, but like the ultimate pit fight. But like, yeah, there's like cosplayers, there's artists, like there's all these kind of things. It's like a whole event. It's actually so much bigger than just the actual kind of main tournament, which was how Magic GPs felt, and I think that's a really good thing. And I think we'll get there, and that will be a very pivotal moment for the game because it feels like once we do that, like we put our foot in the dirt and say like we're here to stay, and like we exist and like we're real. Because there's still people that probably kind of write off the game, even with like the announcement of the pro play, like $1 million, like all that kind of stuff. But having this huge in-person event is really gonna, I think, kind of it's no longer going to be a question. And talking about TCG pros and foreign pros from other games, I think it's gonna be awesome. Like I'm a big fan of some players that have played some other games, and to see them come to Flesh and Blood, I think will be really awesome. I would love to sit across from those people and play against them, that kind of stuff. I think it'll bring a lot to the game because, like right now, I actually think the scene is pretty casual, which sounds weird, and it's like, oh, how could you say that? So arrogant. But we don't have anybody that's like a hardcore. We don't really have hardcore grinders that are like multiple hours a day. They're in like team houses. Like there's such a different level that I think this game will be taken to. We're not even close. Like some of the best players and most competitive players right now play pretty casually, right? They play at their armories and all this kind of stuff. So I think it'll be interesting when we take someone who's take a group of people that have like this is their career. Like they've done this for 10 years or something like this, and they have to be successful, and they'll employ a lot, kind of a myriad of other practices like playing way more, like living together, like all this kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
I actually, I mean, you've already seen this. Grigors Kowalski, who is a Polish player, is just Polish MTG player who came, I think, second in the 2018 Worlds for Magic. It's just top forward 2 Road to Nationals in a row. So he's going to be at his nationals. He's going to be playing this game. I know he's pretty excited about it. And to be honest, there's a lot of players like that are getting excited about it, and I think it's good for the game. I think for the majority of the players I've seen so far that are getting into it are players I mostly like, which is really cool as well from other games. But the other thing as well is like it just brings some more attention to the game, right? And I think you just said that people who still doubt the game, I think there's still some of that. I think there's also a lot of people who are maybe grabbing out their bag of salt, just throwing it around about the Pro Tour. I don't think they necessarily now doubt it. I think they just maybe don't want to hear it, considering maybe what's happened with other card games and the pro scene for some unfortunately some other TCGs going away, which really sucks for those players who are involved in that community.
I totally understand if your high variance game has gotten rid of its professional circuit and there is now a skill. No, I'm kidding. But there is definitely a lot of salt. For sure, but I think most of it's positive. Most of the people that I know that are like high level, professional level, people whose opinions I respect, they generally say some reasonable things. Like there's people who I don't respect, who say dumb things, but that's just life.
Yeah, no, I think for the most part it's really positive. And to your point, the Vegas calling I think is gonna be a marker of Flesh and Bloods. It's almost like we're waiting for it. Like we've had Monarch and then the hype started to build, and it's like Vegas is almost like the start of the next era of Flesh and Blood, I think, where you get this 100%. Event. It introduces it to wider play in the US. Yeah, we've had Road to Nationals and skirmish and stuff. But these are, when you think about it, these are lower level events, right? These are store level events, Road to Nationals. Even Road to Nationals to an extent. But
even the callings. The previous callings won't be anything like this.
Oh, sure, yeah.
High level production from CFB. We're talking, I don't know, but it could be up to like 1,000 people. Like it's on such a different level.
And so it should be
in terms of the game's exposure, like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and so it should be, right? Like that is what you compare it to other events of this kind of scale from TCGs. This is a regional event for players to come from all over and play the event, not like a skirmish which is store based, not like a Road to Nationals which is city based. This is country region based. So I think this marks the start of the event, and as you say, the exposure and coverage is going to be a good thing.
I'm sorry. I had never seen that you just have your calling trophy just sitting behind you. Is that like a little piece you just added? I was looking at it. I'm just like, there's just a blank wall. And it's just like this little trophy.
I have a table, and I have this table coming that's like a runner for the back of my room, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I have my old desk there, and you can see I'm actually propagating some succulents right now.
Oh my god!
There as well.
I was like, what is that little glass thing? Oh, that's a calling trophy.
Yeah, maybe Brendan will get one of those at some point, and we can put his in the back as well. We can replace that avatar of woe art. I'll tell you what, I'm sick of seeing that
mask and avatar of woe. Well, actually, if you look like right here, that's a picture of the calling pamphlet for Austin 2019. Yeah, that's a picture. That's a 2019 little pamphlet, and then that's a picture of me and James White with the book.
Oh, from the Battle Hardened?
Yep.
Very good. Very good. All right. Well, I need to decorate my back wall, but I'm just lazy. I just haven't got around to it, and yeah, I'll get around to it. Anyway.
So Hayden, next question is definitely me reading because we've already talked about. I'm not going to answer these. So what country do you think will have the advantage in a year? So country, not group of countries like Europe, continent. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you mean to read who the question is from, Brendan? That's part of reading the questions.
Oh yeah, it's from Cody. You guys all know Cody, right?
Thanks, Cody. I mean, I don't know. Like, to be honest, what country do I think will have an advantage? I do. Boring. I mean, if I think about like traditional powerhouses of TCGs, right? Like the countries that come to mind are Japan, the US, and a couple of countries in Europe, like like Poland. I think Poland is traditionally like quite a strong TCG community. So the Netherlands, like these are countries I would think probably, to be honest, in a year's time, because of the trajectory, I would say in exactly 12 months time from now, I would say the US, because they're about to enter a massive run of high level OP and competitive events, which is not only going to drive the current player base to get better at the game, it's also going to attract a bunch of new players who could have skills transferable from other games that are going to just really push forward the scene in the US. So I think that gives them, I think basically having competitive level OP and a lot of it. So we already know there's 4 callings, right? Plus nationals. That's a lot. Like that's you now going past what New Zealand's had, for instance, in the space of 4 months.
Yeah,
Quickly.
it's I mean, we expected. So obviously they teased like a US calling in 2021. We're all like, oh my god, we get a calling in 2021, and there's 4 callings. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So way more than we were expecting.
So I think that's where the advantage comes from. I think, to be honest, it's like the I guess the gap of like time having played the game or having as being immersed in the game, it starts to get less and less, and the advantage for the early adopters becomes less and less. So that's kind of where I think 12 months time, but then 6 months time could be different, 18 months time could be different. That's just my kind of guess.
Sweet.
Yeah, cool.
All right, I'll go ahead. I
Sure.
got this next one.
All right. Let's see if you can work
I'll
it
be
out.
the host. Yeah. So this is from Jordan Robson. Okay. Would you be excited or interested to play in a bring 3 decks blitz format where each player bans 1 deck and plays 2 out of 3 series where you need to win with both remaining decks? So yeah, 2v2, right, with the decks A, B. Hey, let me hear your thoughts first.
Does that work? So you need to win 2 out of 3 and you play each deck, I guess presumably at least once. And then how do you choose the deck that you play in the third game if you win 1, split 1? I don't know.
So if you win, do you have to hop off and hop onto your second deck?
I don't know. Oh, maybe. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you win your top 1. Okay.
Sure, that would be it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be proper into that. That's awesome. I think they any kind of format. I actually played an event. I want to say maybe this time last year, almost. Yeah, not long after Crucible came out. That was put on by one of the a local player who is like real big into the community. He's been a massive driver of Flesh and Blood in Australia, called Noah, who basically put on this event. It was I think 4 weeks or 5 weeks in total. The first 4 weeks were like qualifier events. So you came and you played. You had to play a different class constructed deck each week, and you got points based on your finish for the week. And then at the end, they split like the top 8 off. So you needed a threshold of points. Basically, the top 8 players from the first 4 weeks got into it, got into the top 8 event, and that was such a cool event. Like it actually felt kind of tough as well because I at the time I wasn't really testing because we weren't going to have nationals in Australia that year. So I had like 2 decks that I'd been playing. And I played a bit of Gauntlet decks, helping some of the guys test in New Zealand. I was working with Jason Long at the time and Isaac Olsen for nationals. So I had a couple of decks, but actually, like the first week was fine. We went 4-0 in the first week, and then second week I think we went like 2-2. I was like, oh, this is actually a bit dicey now.
That's a classic Hayden Dale number right there, 2-2.
I now need to exactly 2-2 drop. I now need to like X1 the next 2 weeks, or like win the next week, and then probably like 2-2, maybe 1-3. But anyway, just a super interesting format where the meta was like really diverse each week. And I think you'd get that even just within one match like this with 3 decks where you'd have, I don't think you'd have just the people playing the same 3 decks because you're trying to metagame what people are going to play. Some decks could have, better spread matchups. So maybe you do want one of those and you're kind of gambit a 3. Also, the decks can get banned. So I think, it's like the Hearthstone kind of format, right? And it's like really interesting. I would definitely be keen to see. I don't know how they do it. I think if they were going to do something like that, they would do it as like maybe an invitational format or something that's a bit more showcasey than rather than making an actual format because of the cost of that kind of thing.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Or like a third party tournament.
I
think is the best. I honestly think that's the best way to do any of this stuff.
Probably. Yeah.
I've kind of raved about the Red Riot tournament enough on this channel. I mean, it was good. Like it shook things up and it was fun. And like, I'm all for that. And rather than kind of asking LSS and waiting for them to do something, because when they do something, you have to put a lot behind it and it means a lot. But for just a third party store to come up with something fun like that, like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Like I would love all this kind of things. The only limitation in Flesh and Blood is like, it's cards, right? Because we do play with physical cards, so it can be kind of expensive and we have to spread them out across 3. It can be a lot, I guess, for some people, but I mean, obviously, it's not a reservation with me. I think go full steam ahead, but that's the only pushback I could see happening.
Yeah,
I think it's an awesome format.
going wide with it would be very difficult. But like switching cards between deck, like you don't want people doing that, switching cards between decks, things like that. But yeah, I think like doing it in some shape or form. I mean, we've talked about our Welcome to Wraith format games for ages, and we just haven't got around to it.
I'm telling you, like, there's so many Welcome to Wraith boomers in the freaking in this game now. Like, I was talking to Kale. I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I was sitting in the bath. I was relaxing, and I was chatting with Kale on Facebook Messenger, and we were just reminiscing about the old days of Welcome to Wraith. I lit a candle, rose petals, all that good stuff. And I was like, damn.
Does Kale know that you were doing this?
Nah, he doesn't know. He doesn't know where it was, but yeah. He thought he was just chatting up his mate, but I was relaxing. Yeah, so I disconnected because my Wi-Fi's been crappy today. But I was saying that I think that it's like a legitimate thing. Like Welcome to Wraith boomers, like people that started in Welcome to Wraith, they all reminisce about that format, which is funny because like if we probably go back to it, it probably wouldn't be as fun. It might even be like kind of a crappy format. Who knows? I don't think so. But it would be funny if we did end up throwing a tournament or something like that, and we all went back and we realized that like the format is kind of one-dimensional and boring. But we all think it was like the holy grail of golden age, and it just felt like that because we all didn't know how to build decks and we all played Flesh and Blood really badly.
I was just thinking before as well on that. I'm pretty sure there's now a Brendan Patrick Arsenal Pass drinking bingo. So you talk about Welcome to Wraith format, drone.
That one's in there. I didn't know Welcome to Wraith
format. Dante Del Fico.
I've actually been. I know. I've been avoiding saying Dante Del Fico in Drone of Brutality. I really have.
Those are all. Well, that's drink up. That's 2 shots. So.
Yeah, Hayden was telling me the other day about. And I was thinking this morning. You're talking about Brendanisms, like things I say a lot. What are they?
Brendanisms. I can't remember. Yeah. So how that's going to work is, I've got this Haydenisms. We are who we are. Anyway, Brendan. I think that's our 4 questions that we wanted to follow up on competitive play. Sorry that we didn't get to, but I think you've got one last thing to talk about, Brendan. I'm gonna just reach over here while you do that.
Yeah, it's funny because I know you're reaching onto your bed where you pile all of your crap. Look, okay, so we did obviously get we did get a content creator. I think it's like an appreciation kit from Legendary Studios. If you're watching this, you've definitely heard about it. Basically, we've got a Herald of Protection playmat and then a bunch of extended art Herald of Protection. So like full pitch cycle, red, yellow, blue. So we gotta find out a way to find out a way to give those away. So what we've decided is that we're going to do 2 weeks of Twitter giveaways. So the first one is going to be on my Twitter, which is at the Fiddy Sage. So THE the and then Fiddy Shades FIDDY SHADES, kind of like the softcore erotica novel. You can find me there. Just go ahead and follow me. I'll tweet out next week. We'll give away around 5 play sets, and then we'll give away the mat as well to someone who's following and comments below. And we might ask for some questions. Who knows? All that kind of stuff. But it'll be super simple. Just make sure you're following me. We'll throw it up on like all the Arsenal Pass stuff that we can. And we'll just engage on there and do the giveaway from there. But the full art Herald cards are really, really cool.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, they're real nice.
They're very, very cool. Yeah. They're like very, very creative. We talked about this morning. We didn't really have any specific way we wanted to give these away. I know there's a lot of these kits out there, and a lot of people are giving them away in different ways, and like using Patreon and stuff like that. But I think for us, we just really appreciate the base of listeners and viewers and you guys, and Brendan does love Twitter, so
dude, I hate Twitter. I hate Twitter. Twitter is like the death of like the human brain, right? Like it's terrible for society, but it's awesome to like engage with all the people that listen to the cast or are interested in Flesh and Blood. Like, yeah, that's fun.
I've been enjoying it.
Twitter as a program is like a plague on our society. But I love it. So yeah.
I've never had it.
So next thing is gonna be Hayden doing giveaways on TikTok and doing dances. So you guys get ready for that one.
Well,
you are a dancer. Yeah,
I am a dancer. Yeah, so
TikToker. Yeah. We'll get you on.
But no, legitimately. I have actually, never was on Twitter until like a month ago, and enjoying engaging with everyone on there around, Flesh and Blood and just events, and really cool seeing actually like people post about like their road to nationals or decks they're playing, and I didn't, obviously the format is popular for a reason. You can share pictures and share words very quickly, and that's great. So yeah, very nice.
All right, well, that sounds like an active player turn 0. One additional turn. That's time around. We'll see you next week.
That's it. Yeah.